In 1982, a single bottle of medicine threatened to destroy one of the world's most trusted brands. But the company's reaction did something nobody saw coming. What if I told you that admitting a catastrophic failure could actually be the key to incredible success? English Vibe, the podcast, listening, shadowing, main points with examples, and fun stories. Hi everyone, I'm your host Sarah, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're exploring a fascinating idea that feels completely backward, the power of vulnerability. And along the way, we'll learn some natural and useful English together. It all started in Chicago, in the autumn of 1982. A 12-year-old girl took a Tylenol capsule for a cold and died a few hours later. Soon after, more deaths were reported in the area, all linked to the same medicine. The situation was a complete nightmare for the parent company, Johnson & Johnson. Panic began to spread across the country. The company's entire reputation was at stake. This is a great expression. If something is at stake, it means it is at risk or in danger of being lost. For example, the team's future in the competition is at stake. So, with everything on the line, experts expected the company to defend itself and try to control the damage. But they did the opposite. The chairman, James Burke, made a brave decision. He ordered a massive recall of every single bottle of Tylenol in the country, more than 31 million bottles. This move cost the company over $100 million. At the time, many people thought this was corporate suicide. They believed the brand was finished forever. But Burke decided to come clean with the public. To come clean means to be completely honest and tell the truth about something you have been hiding. For example, he decided to come clean about breaking the window. He went on television and spoke directly to the American people. He was honest about the danger, expressed deep sympathy for the victims, and promised to create a new, safer product. He didn't make excuses or blame anyone. He was completely transparent. This level of honesty was almost unheard of from a major corporation, and it reveals something truly deep about human psychology. The company worked around the clock to create tamper-proof packaging with 3 layers of safety seals. It was a huge undertaking. The phrasal verb take on means to accept a new responsibility or challenge. For example, she will take on the new project next week. When they relaunched Tylenol just a few months later in its new, secure bottle, something amazing happened. The public trusted them. In less than a year, Tylenol had regained almost all of its market share. The brand didn't just survive, it became a symbol of corporate responsibility. The crisis didn't destroy them, it actually made them stronger. It really makes you think, doesn't it? We're often taught to hide our mistakes and project an image of perfection. We worry that admitting we were wrong will make us look weak or incompetent. But the Tylenol story shows that the opposite can be true. There's actually a psychological principle that explains this phenomenon. It's called the Pratfall Effect. This was first studied in the 1960s by a social psychologist named Elliot Aronson. His experiment was quite simple, but revealed something profound. He had participants listen to recordings of people answering difficult questions. One person in the recording was presented as highly competent, answering almost all questions correctly. Another was presented as average. Then Aronson added a little twist. In one version of the recording, the competent person would mess up at the end. To mess up is an informal way to say you made a mistake. For example, I'm sorry, I really messed up the instructions. In the recording, after their brilliant performance, the competent person would make a clumsy sound, followed by the words, "Oh my goodness, I've spilled coffee all over my new suit." That was the pratfall, the small, embarrassing mistake. Now, here's the fascinating part. Which person do you think the participants liked the most? It was the brilliant person who spilled the coffee. Making a small mistake made them seem more human, more relatable, and more down to earth. When someone is down to earth, they are practical, reasonable, and friendly. For example, even though she's a famous actress, she is very down to earth. The mistake didn't make them look incompetent. Instead, it made their high level of competence feel more approachable. Perfection can be intimidating. It can make other people feel distant or even a little bit inadequate. But a small flaw, an honest mistake, can build a bridge. It makes you come across as more real. The phrasal verb come across as means to seem to be a certain type of person. For example, he comes across as very confident, but he's actually quite shy. Of course, there's a condition here. The Pratfall Effect works for people who are already seen as competent. If the average person in the experiment spilled the coffee, their likability went down. So, it's not about being incompetent. It's about a competent person showing they are not perfect. This idea has huge implications for our daily lives, especially in leadership and teamwork. A leader who never admits to being wrong or not knowing something can create a culture of fear. Team members might be afraid to speak up, to share new ideas, or to admit their own mistakes. They sweep problems under the rug. This idiom, to sweep something under the rug, means to hide a problem and pretend it doesn't exist. For example, you can't just sweep your financial problems under the rug. But a leader who is willing to say, "I don't have the answer here, let's figure it out together," creates a very different environment. To figure something out means to find a solution to a problem or to understand something. For example, we need to figure out how to get there. This approach encourages psychological safety. It signals to the team that it's okay to be human, it's okay to take risks, and it's okay to fail sometimes. This is the kind of environment where true innovation and collaboration can happen. When people aren't afraid of being blamed, they are more willing to own up to their mistakes quickly. To own up to something means to admit that you did something wrong. For example, no one owned up to breaking the vase. This is where you see teams really build up a strong sense of trust. The phrasal verb build up means to increase something gradually over time. For example, it takes years to build up a good reputation. This kind of trust doesn't come from perfect performance, but from how we handle our imperfections. So, how can we apply this in our own lives? It's not just about saying, "I was wrong." The way you admit a mistake matters a lot. Experts in communication point out a few key steps. To point out means to tell someone a piece of information that they didn't know. For example, she pointed out that I had made a spelling mistake. First, be direct and take responsibility. Avoid vague language like mistakes were made. Instead, use I statements, like "I made a mistake" or "I was wrong about that." It shows you are not trying to avoid blame. It can be a tough pill to swallow, but it's essential. This idiom means something is difficult to accept. For example, losing the final match was a tough pill to swallow. Second, explain what you learned from the mistake. This shows that you are not just sorry, but you have grown. It turns a negative event into a learning opportunity. It demonstrates competence and shows that you are unlikely to make the same mistake again. And third, have a plan to fix it. This is maybe the most important step. An apology without action can feel empty. When you explain how you will make amends, you are showing your commitment to doing better. To make amends means to do something to show you are sorry for hurting someone. For example, he tried to make amends by buying her a gift. Following these steps does something remarkable. It takes a moment of potential weakness and turns it into a demonstration of strength, integrity, and confidence. You are not just fixing a problem. You are actively building trust. By and large, our society tells us to hide our flaws. By and large is an expression that means in general, or mostly. For example, by and large, the new system is working well. We carefully manage our social media profiles to show only our best moments. We hesitate to ask questions in meetings because we don't want to look like we don't know something. But what if that instinct is wrong? What if being vulnerable and admitting our imperfections is actually the more powerful path? In the long run, people don't connect with perfection. In the long run means over a long period of time in the future. For example, eating healthy food is good for you in the long run. People connect with authenticity. They connect with others who are willing to be real. Think about the friends you trust the most. Are they the ones who pretend to have a perfect life? Or are they the ones you can have an honest conversation with? The ones who aren't afraid to share their struggles and admit when they have gone through a hard time? The phrasal verb go through means to experience a difficult situation. For example, she has gone through a lot this year. The Tylenol case is an extreme example, but the principle applies everywhere. Admitting you were wrong to a friend, owning a mistake at work, or telling your family you need help, these are all acts of vulnerability. And each one is an opportunity to build a deeper, more honest connection. It's not a sign of weakness, it's the ultimate sign of strength. So, it turns out that vulnerability isn't something to be afraid of. It's actually a superpower for building trust and genuine human connection. The next time you make a mistake, maybe don't hide it. Try owning it and see what happens. If you enjoyed exploring this topic with me and want to discover more fascinating subjects from psychology to success, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We post new episodes regularly to help you master English by learning about the world. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.